Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, once again, CNN has been caught fabricating the news. I mean, it's almost like a redundancy when we come to CNN. And again, the person who has been caught faking the fake news is none other than Clarissa Ward, who's their chief international correspondent, because she has been doing that kind of thing for many, many years. She has been involved in the Middle East for many, many years, and indeed she covered the fighting in Syria, the first iteration back in 2013 and even before. Um, so what happened? It was that she strode into a prison in Damascus, wearing no hair covering or anything else. She's with her various jihadi minders who were with her, but she didn't bother to cover her hair. She strode in.
But what a nice job. I mean, it was beautifully done. Her makeup was wonderful. Designer water holder, whatever you call that. Okay. I mean, in very good Clarissa Ward form right there in the
Right,
battlefield.
right,
Okay.
that's right. And so she strode in, ostensibly looking for an American journalist, Austin Tice, who had disappeared some years earlier. So she strides in, and the prison apparently is empty. And then she uncovers somebody making a noise, noise, and he turns. Oh, there's somebody here, pretty much buried underground. And he's been
Who
there.
would have thought? Who would have thought there was still someone in this empty prison?
Exactly. And he claims that he gave a name and then said that he had been there really well. He had been in prison for 3 months and he had been in this
How would he
prison.
know? How would he know how long he was in prison?
Exactly, how would he know? And that he had been here, buried underground really for days on end. No food, no water, and all of which
Well,
Clarissa.
you're getting ahead. I mean, so they cite him. He is in a locked cell, and her minders say, "Turn away," because they're going to blow off the lock.
That's right.
Why turn away?
That's
Why?
right.
Why turn away?
Right.
And then shots are fired.
hmm And that's right. And then he claims.
A guy under the designer sleeping bag doesn't move.
That's right.
I mean, if you heard gunfire close up, your your body will twitch. You cannot control it. You simply cannot control it. Okay, your body takes over then.
That's
But
right.
this guy, maybe he was slurping on a cappuccino underneath. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So he says, "Oh, don't shoot. I'm a civilian." He says, "I'm a civilian," and he then gave a name, which turned out to be fake, and said essentially he'd had no food, no water. He'd just been buried here for days on end. Um, and Clarissa gave him some water, and she said, yeah, it's all
Yeah,
right.
but at that point, after he's explaining who he is, she moves away. She's at the open door that apparently had been a gunfire had been used to open it. There is no We don't see if that's true or not true. And she leans forward into it like it's so emotional for
That's right.
her.
That's right.
It's so emotional. It's amazing that the camera turned to show her do that. Okay. So she's the story or this guy.
That's right.
Okay, take it there. Take it from
That's right.
there.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And so again, no food, no water. He's been now in prison for several months. And the extraordinary thing is that the prison cell in which they found him was meticulously clean.
Yeah.
You'd have thought, well, that's somebody been cleaning. Cleaning woman had apparently come in and on a daily basis to clean the place out. And again, if he'd
They
been
don't do
there.
that in American prisons. They don't do that in
No,
American.
no, no, no rodents running around or anything like that. Um, and so, the again, no evidence of fecal matter or anything like that you would expect
Insects,
somebody who would be
no insects.
no insects.
I mean, everybody, like, conjure back when they found Saddam Hussein in his little mini bunker, okay? Now that had been underground for a while.
Right.
There was all kinds of shavings in his
Yeah.
beard. He was absolutely filthy. You
Yeah.
probably wouldn't want to get too close if you know what I mean. Okay. Filthy long
Yeah.
fingernails. Okay.
Right.
That was a real story. They found him there. I
That's
don't know who tipped him off, but he had been living underground.
right. That's
He looked like it. Okay.
that's right. That's exactly right. Um, and one should say, incidentally, that he showed great courage um, at that moment because he was totally humiliated by his American captors, and showed great courage during the trial and execution, as did his sons, both of whom died fighting. So
What was Saddam's last words? Remember?
no,
I can't quote it, but it was basically remember the rights of the Palestinians. That's his last words on this
right,
earth.
right. Yeah, and then he told the hangman, behave with dignity. He told him, because I think the hangman was kind of making nasty comments to him, and he said, behave with dignity. Um, but anyway, but this person had a kind of a, quite well trimmed beard,
Better than
and his
yours.
fingernails were also
Better than
remarkably
yours,
short.
George. Better trim than
I
yours.
think so. I think there was better trim than mine. And now the extraordinary thing is with this whole scene was that CNN transmitted this broadcast, and of course, then it kept rebroadcasting on an hourly basis, while viewers were obviously asking these very questions. He's supposed to have been here imprisoned with no food, no water, for days on end. And yet, why is he so nicely manicured? Why is his beard nicely trimmed? And but CNN kept doing it, and then investigators started digging around as to who this person was, because the name that he had given Clarissa, they said, well, there's no record of this. But they kind of identified him, and they found that his name really was Salman Mohammed Salman, who had been, he had worked in the Syrian armed forces. He'd worked at Homs, and was basically in the business of extortion.
Yeah,
Uh,
shaking people down. Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
right, shaking people down. And the reason why he was imprisoned was that there seemed to be some kind of a quarrel between his extortion and the biggest extortionist that he was working for, and they had basically had a quarrel over the sharing of the booty, and that's why he was imprisoned. So he was not exactly a
But
freedom fighter,
apparently
a
that
dissident.
happened a month ago, not 3 months.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. There was 1 month ago, but he'd been in prison somewhere else, and then he was transferred to this prison in Damascus. So the the extraordinary thing is that all this has now been published. So it's on on Twitter, on the internet, and CNN has still is running with this story, and still said, "Well, we're looking into it." Because I mean, they've had to take into consideration all the all the points that people have made. Well, we're examining it, but they still retained it. It's still up there. CNN is still running with that story, even with the community note that has now been added, and they're still running with it now. This is completely extraordinary, particularly as this woman Clarissa Ward has done this thing before. Remember that the fake chemical weapons attack when she was so sniffing the backpacks of children, claiming, "Oh yeah, I can."
Those smell like sarin.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I can smell the sarin. So
It's very similar to Novichok, apparently.
that's
Yeah.
right, exactly. So they continue with this, and this is really a real issue here. I mean, CNN, which goes out of its way constantly berating Donald Trump for fake news and for putting out lies and falsehoods. Yet this is what it has its news people doing. And and this is does on a regular basis. Now, any other serious news organization would have pulled the story and would have suspended her, pending a full investigation. But instead, she just continues. The story is up there, and she continues to do her reporting from Syria. So this is quite an extraordinary media performance. And then one wonders why have mainstream media outlets plunged in their reputation.
Well, CNN long ago chose the side of power. I mean, because if you side with power, you get all kinds of access. Okay,
Right.
and that's really what they want. They decided they could be the conveyor belt of the official narrative. They're more than happy with that. Okay, and they chose wrong because they're just ridiculed, endlessly ridiculed, and everybody knows it. I mean, there are more than a handful, I'd say dozens and dozens now of podcasts that get more viewers than CNN does. And I'm talking about
Right.
prime time,
Right.
the main demo. I mean, but still, they can't shake it, okay?
Right.
Because they're the access journalists. Um, you have to remember, I don't know if it's like every 3 years or 4 years or five, but it's through blocks of time. And CNN, it has this like ongoing contract where, in hotel rooms and airports and all that, that's considered a viewer,
Right.
okay?
Right.
They get paid for it. I mean, because it's done in a lump sum. Okay, the next 5 year contract. Okay, well, that's
Right.
going to come up pretty soon. It's going to come up for all the major networks. It's going to be a really disastrous situation. I don't remember what year it is, but it's coming up real fast. Okay, but they just they can't help themselves. We have to remember, at least George and I remember. George and I are closer in age than most of our viewers, I would imagine. But I can remember, growing up and watching the Vietnam War on the nightly news. We didn't have cable then. There was no such thing as CNN. And they showed stuff. They showed stuff that they would never show now because it has to be all sanitized. There were real journalists that covered Vietnam. Okay, and some of them were access journalists that we have today. But you saw some really amazing stuff coming into your living room, which we'd never seen before. The speed up to the Gulf War. No, embedded. They got
Yeah.
their uniforms. They look really cool. They're going to battle too. And that's when we started getting this pure sanitizing of the media, and they just run with it. Okay, and it legitimizes. There's no mention of the dirty war, the dirty proxy war that started in 2011. All of the at one point in time is what one in every $6 the CIA was spending on overt and covert operations was getting rid of Assad, which didn't work initially. CNN, everything's in the present. Everything is in the present. Okay. And to be fair to everyone here, well, people that escape prison, well, I mean, were they all innocent? I mean, maybe some people were rapists, maybe they were murderers. Okay. I mean, I'm trying to be more objective, but no, opening them, it's a nice metaphor. They need to work on these metaphors to make people feel good about
Right.
themselves. Believe me, life is always far more complicated. But no, that's why you go to CNN to make everything very simple. And of course, we're the good guys. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, George. I mean, I could be wrong here, but what kind of masculinity does this man have when it's this blonde Western woman, so, rescue? I mean, it really is, white man's burden here. Here
Right.
she is, the liberator, the white woman from the West and all that. And CNN viewers, they may not be totally aware of it, but that's something that, yes, we are the good people. We give
Right.
freedom. Okay.
Right. Right.
And she's like the Mother Mary that gives mercy on that.
Right.
They play on these these are mythology
Right.
memes that they constantly play. What was it? Anderson Cooper suddenly, I think it was in Haiti, suddenly ran from the camera and grabbed this little brown boy and saved him.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, we've seen this over and over and over again. Okay. It's just war propaganda.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that's what she was doing for all those years in Syria. So when you go, if you go back in time to the first phases of the Syrian civil war, she was entirely embedded with with Jabhat al-Nusra and doing interviews with these people again, presenting them as freedom fighters. So, but back then she would absolutely cloak herself in burqas, and you couldn't even see her. So I didn't even know that she was blonde. I mean, I just remember seeing she's completely covered up, and she has admitted herself that she's completely prejudiced when it comes to Syria. I mean, that which itself is amazing. A journalist admitting that she's totally on one side in the story that she's supposed to be covering for CNN, a supposedly uh, impartial, neutral media outlet. So that she does that, but going back to your point, which is that this is the story that the media want to tell you, which is, well, the people are being liberated. And so even though right from the start, hey, well, we have HTS. HTS is simply another name for Jabhat al-Nusra. Jabhat al-Nusra was another name for Al-Qaeda. These are the same people. And this Julani, had been in ISIS. He'd been the number two in ISIS, number two to Baghdadi. And nonetheless, the media will have you believe that this is just, oh, it's a springtime of peoples. People are being liberated. So they always have that particular narrative to go to somehow. Oh, this is like 1989. The Berlin Wall has fallen, and people are liberated. And now when you go to the prison, well, why are people in prison? Well, how do you know what reason they are? People, you just open the prison gates, and who knows? You have could have pedophiles. Probably do have pedophiles in prison. You have extortionists in prison. You have
Well,
murderers,
this guy
obviously.
was an extortionist.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Murderers. All sorts of people say, oh, great. Well, we're just opening up the prison gates. And already we're seeing rampant criminality in Syria, random executions, random settling of scores. Well, that's kind of what happens when you start
But
releasing people from prison.
and Vanessa Beeley, when we talked to her, she was describing the last hours of her existence in Damascus. And the first thing she imparted upon us was the gangs, the criminal gangs, shaking down people, robbing people, entering people's homes, pillage, everything. But she didn't say rebels. She didn't say, where the government troops were or the police, or the police disappeared, the government disappeared. And when that vacuum, and I've described it before, it's a very short amount of time. It could be literally minutes when you feel like now it is just a Hobbesian free for all.
Right.
It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender. You can be a victim. You are all a
Right.
mark, okay? And it
Right.
can be terrifying, okay? I've talked about villages in the Donbass when the Ukrainians started attacking their villages. Everything normal about civil society disappears. And this is what Vanessa was telling us, okay? And apparently, from what we know now, because of the existence of these kind of bandits and criminals, and just made the work of the terrorists coming in so much easier. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
no resistance. Everyone was terrified.
Right, right. No, that's always the case. That once you just let out everyone from prison, then essentially everybody is absolutely terrified and are just huddling in their houses. And there's obviously no one's going to go out and start protesting against the new authorities when you could easily get killed. But this extraordinary thing of journalists faking stories and then not even taking any kind of responsibility for them, which is what we've got here. We've seen many examples of this. So remember the starkest example was the time when the Guardian ran with the story that Julian Assange had met on several occasions with Paul Manafort, the Donald Trump's campaign manager, in 2016. This was a sensational, really
Luke
inflammatory
Harding.
story.
Yeah, Luke Harding.
Yeah, Luke Harding, 2018. This is, and of course, within minutes, critics, emerged and said that this is impossible. This is one of the most heavily photographed, observed place in the world. And that anything like this, Manafort going into the Ecuadorian embassy, would have been absolutely observed, photographed by the
And Paul
American
Manafort's
authorities, the British authorities.
he's a big guy. You don't
He's
miss it.
exactly, and we would have known about it. And so this came up, and the Guardian, they just left it there. They left that story there, and it's still there. I think you can still go to the Guardian website, type in Manafort, Julian Assange, and there it'll be in the archives after all these years, without anything, without any kind of appropriate said, yes, we did run with this story. We're maintaining this as a historical record, but of course we don't stand by any of the claims here. But no, it's there as apparently a news story uncovered by the Guardian.
Well, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but there was no prison break from Aleppo. I'm sorry, Idlib. Idlib, a pretty harsh regime under HTS. No dissent allowed. Did Clarissa Ward go and check that prison out, see if
Right.
anyone's still there? I'm
Right.
pretty sure they're still there.
Right.
This
Right.
is they're not curious. They're incurious of what's going on. And again, these tropes that are so simple to understand that, I mean, there's another one that was just recently. She was caught in some kind of gunfight or missile fight. Hamas, pounding Israel. Well, Hamas has sophisticated fireworks, okay, for the most part.
I think that was her. That was her. I
That
think.
was her. Yeah, and she's on the ground,
Right.
and they have the missiles flying all.
Right.
Well, it was in one direction, and Gaza was
Right.
getting another pounding. Okay, and she was nowhere near where those missiles were going to drop. Not at all. Okay,
Right.
we know that because CNN just gives it away. They panned out, and there are people just walking.
Right.
You know, they're out for a Sunday afternoon a walk.
Right.
Okay, I mean, but no, she's on the ground and her quivering voice and all of
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more fake.
That's right. That's right. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they don't go to Idlib. They don't find out how exactly does HTS maintain its authority. How do they get to coerce the substantial population? They don't. And so therefore, the entire focus is always, oh, you know, Bashar al-Assad's, torture chambers. It's all been years of torture. Well, what are his enemies doing? What are they doing in Idlib? And this has always been this one-sided story. It's like, well, we had a war, and Bashar al-Assad is responsible for 650,000 deaths. They always keep adding the numbers. Well, what were the other side doing? It's like, hey, the two sides in a war. How many casualties are the other side responsible for?
Well, we know that torture happened because the United States used Syria as a place for extreme rendition. Yeah, torture happens in Syria under Assad's tenure. Of course it did. I'm sure it happened in Idlib and in Aleppo and everywhere else. I mean, it's not surprising that people are tortured to me. What's surprising to me that you say only one side does it, okay? And the side that doesn't do it, you're promoting. Okay, this is just juvenile thinking,
Well,
okay?
that's right. And,
And looking, in these kinds of situations, looking for a good guy, it's a fool's errand. Sorry.
well, that's exactly right. And of course, the Americans knew this when they unleashed a terrorist war on Syria, and this was done all very consciously. We know this. We know the record. 2011, they went after Gaddafi and then transferred the weapons from Gaddafi's armories to Syria. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that they would unleash a civil war within Syria. And hey, a lot of very bad things happen in the Civil War, and particularly in any counterterrorism, counterinsurgency operation, as the Americans well know. I mean, Americans have done a lot of that over the years, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, and every time Americans have done it, they've involved torture and a lot of very, very nasty things. And so the whole idea, oh my God, look at what the Syrians are doing. Yeah, kind of what you were doing, in South Vietnam. It's kind of what you were doing in Central America. Yeah, it's a very nasty, very brutal war, and there are a lot of casualties. Don't act the innocent. Oh my God, human rights abuses. I
Well,
can't take it.
George and I have mentioned this before, and I hate to burst bubbles there, but when everything is said and done, whatever said and done in the case of Ukraine means there'll be settling of scores. You know why? Because during the Second World War and after the Second World War, for more than a decade, I think went up into 1958. You always correct me on this one, but there was retribution in Ukraine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It continued more than a decade after the war came to an end, and it will happen again. And that's another thing, George, that if you're mildly curious, you can find out on Twitter from people that are actually following it in an honest way. There is a lot of retribution going on right now, all across Syria. Okay,
Yep.
settling of scores.
That's
But
right.
no, but one side is the liberator and one side is the good guy. Okay, all right. They have like a juvie record. That would happen. That was a long time ago. It didn't really matter. Okay. We've cleaned up their record. The judges, squashed all of those cases. Okay.
Right.
Who's the judge? The West.
Yeah, no, that's right. Even as the West is putting out feelers, hey, we're going to have talks and we're going to recognize this government. Amazing that they're putting out all these feelers when here is a government that has not remotely presented itself as in any way the government of Syria, a government that has in any way control over the territory of Syria or is
Well,
able to exert its authority over the territory of Syria. Oh, we're already in negotiations to recognize this government.
It's so smart that you mentioned that, because when they do talk to people that claim to represent HTS, I mean, the journalists are asking them like policy things about what you're going, and they're like, well, maybe that's what we might do. I mean,
Okay.
because George is right. They're not thinking that way right now.
Okay.
They're probably thinking, my opinion, they're going to make sure that group doesn't take over this building here.
Okay.
Now that's what we're thinking about,
Right.
okay? And we know a couple of guys that live on the end of the street. They have death sentences attached to them. We're going to take care of that. That's what they're thinking about, everyone. And who's got supply of water around here? That's ours, okay? Because this group, we don't want that group to do it, okay? And in the meantime, we have 3 people to kidnap, okay? Because we've already been paid for it, okay?
Right.
That's
Right.
what's going on.
No, that's exactly right. And so whenever you recognize something as the government, well, it has to actually demonstrate that it is the government and that therefore it is actually in control of the territory of Syria. Well, of course, these people are not in control of anything. I mean, we know we have this part is controlled by the Kurds, this part is controlled by Turkey, this part is controlled by the Americans, this part is controlled by Israel. Within the territories that the HTS is operating, there are mass executions and all sorts of fights. this is not the government. You cannot say, well, this is the government of Syria, and yet, oh, we're already involved in talks with these people. It's totally bogus, other than clearly to show that essentially these are the West's creatures. Because you can be sure, if they thought for one moment that they were pro-Russian, or that these were people working for the Kremlin, no one would be putting out any feelers. They would say, absolutely, we're not recognizing any of these stinking authorities. So, we know these are they're very favorably inclined towards, yes, these are the people that we're going to work towards, and that's it. And of course we've known HTS, the Jabhat al-Nusra, and the rest are creations of the West.
And they're just really hoping that this time it works out. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of the people behind this one, what was the phrase, George? Iraq, it'll be a walk in the park.
right,
That, right?
right,
It'll be a walk in the park.
right.
Okay. And then I'm waiting for. I'm sure they've kept in the hopper there to pull out. This resistance group is using Viagra as a weapon of war. Okay, they have all these little things in their toolkit. Okay, we have no idea who controls what, particularly in the greater Damascus area. Meanwhile, the country is being carved up.
Yep.
And George, once you stick your flag in the ground, you don't usually take it back. Okay,
No,
the Americans are expanding, the Turks are expanding, Israel, with a wild abandon. I mean, they're like 20 kilometers outside of Damascus,
right.
and there's nothing stopping them. HTS isn't stopping them. I
No,
wonder why.
no, that's exactly. So it's in no sense the government. So,
Yeah,
so
but see, you're right. In the meantime, a guy has been liberated in a prison.
that's right.
Yay! It's working. Yay! In the meantime, that's what they're
That's right.
doing. In the
That's
meantime,
right.
look over here. Look over
That's
here.
right. Exactly. Hey,
One guy has got his freedom back. It's
that's right.
worth.
Exactly. They're the liberators. They freed the country from the tyrannical rule of Bashar al-Assad. They're the good guys. And so, well, aren't they supposed to be the terrorists? Oh yeah, that was in the past. They've renounced that. Imagine just simply accepting that. Somebody say, yeah, I'm not with them anymore. I'm not a terrorist anymore. I'm not a jihadi anymore. I'm pro-Western. Oh, okay, that's good enough for me. Imagine this kind of
Well,
this
that's like saying
credulousness.
that's like saying, okay, he was a guard at Auschwitz for 4 years. Why are you holding it against him? Okay, that was years
That was
ago.
years ago. Yeah,
Years
yeah,
ago.
that's a very good analogy, because even today, they grab some 100-year-old guy. Right, that's it. You were a Treblinka. When you were 100, so when you were about 20 years old, and so that we're going to put you on trial now, even though you're 100 and you have no idea where the hell you are. But there's accountability.
Western media, when HTS rebranded into HTS in Idlib, there's ample evidence. I don't know if it's being whitewashed away, but I mean, this was not a paradise. This was Sharia law.
Right.
Okay, and it was very and the whole families were documented as being annihilated. It is all. I don't know if they're wiping it clean right now, but as
Right.
of a week ago, all of this stood. Okay,
Right.
but no, Clarissa Ward, she's the one that will tell it. She's the oracle of truth here, and she will deem what is good and what is evil, because that's what the CNN seems to
That's
believe
right.
it is. Nobody believes them.
No, that's
I
right.
mean,
And they'll continue.
the derision about this story is just really
That's
it should
right.
be expected. Okay.
Exactly. And but CNN is going to stick with it. They will absolutely stick with it. They're not going to take any action against Clarissa Ward. They'll still treat her as our star reporter. And it's exactly the same way as the Guardian has stuck by that ridiculous story about Paul Manafort and Julian Assange. You just simply ignore all of the ridicule and all of the contradictions that have been presented. Okay, that's it. We're not going to own it. So the media, they expect others to be accountable for any of their shortcomings. The media are never accountable for their shortcomings.
The party is never wrong.
Right.
Individuals can make mistake,
Right.
but not the party. All right, that's our review of this completely expected but outrageous story. No wonder nobody watches it anymore. The
Right.
only time people watch it is they look for clips on YouTube looking how dishonest they are.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, this is The Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is, what day is it?
Today is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, so tomorrow George has his live stream.
Yes, exactly. Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join me. Come with comments, criticisms, suggestions, ideas, opinions, and then, think about these angry, ferocious hounds who are really getting into a really foul mood. Oh well, buddy, he's the
There's
worst.
no rebranding going on
No,
here.
what's going on with the tip jar? We're getting tired of complaining all the time. So you got a few bob in your pocket behind the sofa cushion, whip them out, dunk them in the tip jar, just try to put them into a better mood. Makes life easier for all of us. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we'll have happier hounds, at least we hope so, for the time being. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.